All right, first they're just asking you to get the coordinates of the center, and then we're going to start talking about an a squared and a b squared. Now it says here in the directions to graph, but what I required you to do in class was just to identify the center and get me the a and the b just to start. We'll be doing more practice graphing later. So x squared and y squared, when there's no coordinates with that, no other numbers with that, it means you've got an ellipse that's centered at the origin. There's no movement left, right, up, or down. Then how do I know which equation has the a squared and which one has the b squared? Your a squared is always going to be the greater of the two. So in this case, your a squared will be the 25. If a squared equals 25, then your a equals 5. That's going to be how far the distance is from the center to the edge of your ellipse. And then your b squared is 4, so your b is equal to 2. So which one is going to be your major axis? Your major axis is going to be the one that has the greater distance. And so our major axis, I want you to picture that the y is going up 5 and down 5. So your major axis is going to be vertical, and that's going to be going through, straight up and down through the center at x equals 0. So it's going to be this y coordinate, whatever this is right here, because the a is underneath the y. Next, we're going to write down the coordinates of the center when there is movement. Notice it's x minus 2, so it turns out as a positive 2 center. Y minus 5 turns out as a positive. This time my a is going to be the 49, the larger of the two, and it's under the x this time. My b is 4. So if a squared is 49, my a is 7. If b squared is 4, my b is 2. So this time the major axis is along the x, the distance of 7 in both directions. So I want you to picture that this time the major axis is going left to right, left 7, right 7. And so if it's going straight across that way, and we have our center at right 2, up 5, it's going through a major axis of y equals 5. And that's because this time the larger the a squared was under, and so your major axis went right to left or horizontal. Over here, the larger number was under the y squared, and so your major axis was vertical. Again, we're not graphing these yet. We're just kind of pulling out the pertinent information, and we will do enough practice of graphing later. Okay, x squared and a y squared. Again, we've got just centered at the origin, and then this time the a squared is under the x. And so we're going to say that a is just 10, b is just 6. And just like the other one, we then have our major axis going straight through the x coordinate this time, which happens to also be 0. Over here, we're centered at the origin. This time our a squared, so our a is 9. Our b squared, so our b is 4. Over here, we've got a center at the origin again. Our a squared is 9, so our a is 3. Our b squared is 1, so our b is 1. Over here, our center will be through the point -3, +4. Our a squared is 25, so our a equals 5. Our b squared is 9, so our b equals 3. All right, the center of this one, you're going to go put a dot right in the center and identify those coordinates. So I see that it's at -3, -1. That's me just counting back 3 and down 1 to get to that center. And then our a and our b, remember the a is always going to be the larger of the two on the ellipse. So if I go count the distance from the center to the edge, I count 1, 2, 3, 4. And my b is just a distance of 1. And then the major axis is going to be, this time, this vertical line. The longer of the two, we're looking at that vertical line. So our major axis is going to be through, oops. So here I go writing the equation. It's going to be x plus 3 squared, y plus 1 squared. Ellipse is always going to be equal to that c value of 1. And then this is going to be over the a squareds and the b squareds. This time, since you've got a vertical or the y value showing your a squared, the longer distance, that means our a squared is going to be under the y. And since a was a distance of 4, 4 squared would make a 16 under there. Your b squared is under the other one. 1 squared is just 1. Well, if it's just got a 1 on the bottom, do I even really need it? No, you totally can just leave it as x plus 3 squared with that invisible 1 on the bottom. And that's it. All right, the center of this next one, we can go ahead and identify that at the 0, 0 origin. This time there's 3 in the x direction and 2 in the y direction. So the x direction is going to be my a squared. It's a distance of 3. B is 2. The major axis this time is going to be horizontal, going this direction. So we're going to say that it's through x equals 0. And then here goes my equation. It's just x squared and y squared because we're centered at the origin. And then remember that the x value had the a this time, going right 3 down 3. So 3 squared is just 9. Y squared was 2, 2, and 2 squared is just 4. How'd you do? There's your equation. All right, this time the center is again at the origin. And this one looks like it's slightly off. So can we just pretend like it touches there, because we definitely do not need to be doing some weird square root stuff. And then this is going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your y is going up 6 and down 6, and this is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to say that a is 6, b is 5. And since the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the longer one, this is going to be an x equals 0 major axis. We're just going to say x squared and y squared because there's no movement right or left when you're centered at the origin. This time the longer was under the y squared. 6 squared is 36. 5 squared is 25. And we're done. Finally, last one. Here's our center. We're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in that direction. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the other direction. That means that our major axis is going to be x equals 2. And then our equation is going to be x. Oh, we didn't do our center yet. Center's at 2, 0. So x minus 2 squared, y minus 0 squared, or just y squared. And then in the x direction, it's 3. 3 squared is 9. In the y direction, it was 5. So your a squared, 5 squared is 25. How'd you do? Sorry about that bell. That's the bell ringing.